Welcome to the Baby Therapist's Crash Course, where we help you navigate the wild world of counseling and crush those board exams with confidence. Whether you're fresh out of grad school or knee-deep in client sessions, this podcast is your go-to guide for mastering the skills you need to succeed. I'm Tia Marie, your host and fellow baby therapist, here to break down complex concepts, share study tips, and get you exam ready without the stress. Let's dive in. Acing the NCMHCE, Study Tips and Survival Strategies. Welcome back to the Baby Therapist's Crash Course. Today we're diving into a highly requested episode, Study Tips for the NCMHCE exam. This exam can feel like an overwhelming beast, but fear not, I've gathered all the best strategies, quirky tips, and sanity-saving advice from those who've been through it. I scoured the internet for the best study tips, so you don't have to. Whether you're feeling confident or just barely holding on, this episode is going to help you tackle that exam with a clear head and a solid game plan. So grab a snack, take a deep breath, and let's jump in. The NCMHCE exam is known for its intense case narratives, tricky answer choices, and more reading than you'd expect. But with the right approach, you can navigate through it without pulling your hair out. I've collected a bunch of helpful tips from real test takers who've lived to tell the tale, strategies that range from what to do the day before the exam to how to handle the ridiculous amount of reading. So whether you're a meticulous planner or someone who just plans to wing it, we've got something for everyone. Let's break it down. Tip 1. Write, breathe, slow, etc. during the exam. One of the most surprisingly effective tips comes from a Reddit group where someone recommended writing simple reminders to breathe and slow down during the exam. Seems basic, right? But in the heat of test day, nerves can take over, and we forget the fundamentals, like, breathing. Writing down reminders like breathe or take it slow can help ground you when the questions get overwhelming. Also, let's talk about the day before the exam. Do not cram. That's right, no studying the day before. Instead, focus on self-care. We're talking bubble baths, binge watching your favorite shows, long walks, whatever relaxes you. You've already put in the hard work. And now it's about letting your brain recharge before the big day. Tip 2. The art of reading the questions carefully. There's a lot of reading on this exam. And when I say a lot, I mean so much reading that it might feel like you're in a speed reading competition. But here's the thing. The key isn't speed. It's careful reading. The exam loves to throw in irrelevant details to confuse you. So when you're working through the narratives, slow down and make sure you're reading what the question is really asking. One tip is to read the question first, then go back to the case and pull out the info that pertains to that specific question. This saves you from getting lost in unnecessary details. And here's a bonus tip. Trust your gut. If you've narrowed down the answer choices, but still aren't 100% sure, go with what feels right. Sometimes your intuition can help you find the best answer, even if you can't quite explain why in the moment. Tip 3. Use that 15-minute break. Seriously. About halfway through the exam, you'll get a scheduled 15-minute break. Use the entire break. Step away from the computer, stretch, grab a snack, and breathe. Even take a mini mindfulness break. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths to reset. It's easy to want to rush through the exam, but remember, this is a mental marathon, not a sprint. Speaking of snacks, bring something with you. A little sugar or carbs can help boost your energy levels and keep you grounded during those longer narratives. Tip 4. Know your theories and techniques. Like the back of your hand, the NCMHCE loves theories. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT, rational emotive behavior. therapy, REBT, they'll all make an appearance. Same goes for solution-focused therapy, narrative therapy, and more. Know the techniques associated with these theories cold, because you'll be asked to apply them to case studies. For example, if you see a narrative about someone with conduct disorder or oppositional defiant disorder, be ready to think in terms of behavioral interventions. If the case is about hoarding or prolonged grief, think CBT and how you'd guide the client through their distorted thought patterns. Tip 5. Stay updated on the DSM-5 TR. This is a big one. Make sure you're familiar with the DSM-5 TR. Some test takers made the mistake of studying with the old DSM-5, and that could trip you up. The test reflects the latest changes, so make sure you know updates to diagnoses like prolonged grief disorder and any shifts in diagnostic criteria. And here's a surprise for some. There are cases involving clients under 18, like ADHD, OCD, and social anxiety disorder. Make sure you're prepared for that curveball. Tip 6. Pace yourself and use your time wisely. Pacing is key. Some people feel rushed by the reading, but others, like one test taker, finished with over an hour left on the clock. The trick is to take your time without getting stuck. For each question, read through the possible answers carefully, but don't spend so much time agonizing over one answer that you lose track of the bigger picture. If you finish early, use that extra time to review. Once you lock in your answers, they're set in stone, so make sure you're confident in your choices before you move on. Tip 7. The review process, don't ignore it. Speaking of reviewing, after every 4 to 5 questions in a vignette, the exam will ask you if you want to review your answers. Some test takers find this repetitive, but it's there for a reason. If you're unsure about an answer, use the review time. Don't gamble and rush through it. Take advantage of that extra moment to double-check your thought process. Tip 8. Practice, practice, practice. But don't overdo it. Now let's talk about prep. One test taker recommends doing 2-3 practice narratives each day leading up to the exam and focusing on areas where you feel shaky. For some, it's assessments and interventions. For others, it's the lesser-known disorders like prolonged grief disorder or hoarding. While it's important to study, make sure you're giving yourself breaks and not burning out. Some people stick to a weekend study routine, doing a practice exam or 2 on Saturday and Sunday. It's all about finding the balance between focused studying and self-care. Tip 9. Test day strategy. It's all about the presenting symptoms. When you sit down on exam day, don't forget your training. Start by writing out the presenting symptoms and functional impairments for each case. This helps you organize your thoughts and map out the correct diagnosis and treatment plan. One popular strategy is to read all the answers first and jot down the ones you feel most confident about. Then, for the answers you're less sure of, ask yourself, what information will I gain from this answer? How will it help me solve the question? Tip 10. Don't stress about the weird questions. Let's be real. Some of the questions on the NCMHCE will feel like complete nonsense. You'll see quotes you'd never say in real life or answers that seem absurdly vague. Just keep calm. Don't overthink it. And remember, no one walks out of this exam feeling like it was a breeze. Stick to your training and trust that you've prepared. Overview and key takeaways. So here's what we've learned today. Write down reminders like breathe and slow down to stay grounded during the exam. Use your 15-minute break and mini breaks between vignettes to reset. Master the theories and techniques associated with CBT, DBT, EBT, and more. Stay up to date with the DSM-5 TR for any diagnostic changes. Take your time, review your answers carefully, and pace yourself. You've got the time, so use it. That's all for today's episode of the Baby Therapist Crash Course. You've got this. The NCMHCE is tough, but with the right strategies, you can pass it with confidence. Don't forget to breathe, slow down, and take care of yourself in the lead up to test day. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to subscribe and share it with your fellow baby therapists. And if you've got more tips or questions, reach out. We're all in this together. Want to support this podcast? Show your appreciation through my Ko-Fi page at ko-fi.com, The Baby Therapist CC. Until next time, good luck, stay calm, and keep that CBT toolkit sharp.